Today is November 9, 2022. My name is Rob Carr of Calamus, The Right to Life, and this is Pro-Life Week. Well, today is the day after the election, and I suppose we need a little soul searching as I try to evaluate what happened last night. And even this morning, as votes are still being counted in many states across the country. But in essence, it was a very painful night last night. It was just pretty rough going for Michiganders who want to defend the sanctity of human life and defeat Prop 3. So as you, I'm sure, know by now, we lost Proposal 3 last night quite convincingly by about 10 percentage points, about 55 to 45%. And really, we were unable to match dollar for dollar the millions of dollars that came in for the other side that they could use for almost unlimited TV commercials and pop-up ads on your cell phones. The other side spent about $40 million, while our coalition, the Citizens to Support Women and Children, raised about $21 million, which is a sizable amount of money. I think it's the most we've ever raised for a referendum. But it was 2-1 the other side, and a lot of that money came from billionaires like George Soros and others, like Mike Bloomberg, who gave millions of dollars, that we just could not match. And they just flooded the airways so much that they were able to drown out a lot of our own messaging, explaining how dangerous and confusing Prop 3 was. But unfortunately, it just did not happen. And on top of losing Proposal 3, Governor Whitmer beat Tudor Dixon by about 7 or 8 percentage points, and she was heavily underfunded as well, even more, I think, than we were. And the TV commercials for Dixon were just paled in comparison to the number of commercials that Whitmer ran continually. And in most of her advertising focused on abortion. That was, if anything was the theme of her campaign, it was abortion. And unfortunately, it won. The Democrats won, Attorney General, they won Secretary of State, they won the State House and the State Senate. And for the Michigan legislature, it was the first time since 1984 that Republicans have not controlled the chamber. So, all in all, it was a pretty devastating loss for the pro-life movement in the state of Michigan. So we're going to have to just pick up our, pick up from our bootstraps and press on and soldier on. And, Right to Life in Michigan has faced adversity before, and it has not given up. It has always fought on, which is what we will do. And admittedly, there's a lot of handicaps in our situation now, but we will not give up fighting for the unborn. And we must face the reality that abortion really was the key component in many races, not only in Michigan, but around the country. Like I mentioned on Monday's podcast, the pro-abortion folks raised about $320 million to run TV, abortion-themed TV commercials. And, we just could not match that amount of money. It just couldn't happen. The Democrats made abortion really their key issue, not just in Michigan, but across the country. In race after race, abortion, how dare the Supreme Court in the Dobbs decision take away a woman's fundamental right to reproductive freedom? How dare them do that? and they were able to energize a lot of women who might otherwise have voted on pocketbook economic issues, because let's face it, our country's in a big mess right now. But a lot of people, for whatever reason, chose to elevate the issue of abortion more than how high gas prices were, or food prices, or the fentanyl, or the crime, all those issues. Abortion seemed to take precedence. And back in August and September, a lot of commentators thought that abortion, which had gone up after the Dobbs decision in June, these pundits thought that abortion had kind of peaked in July and August, but then it began to decline as an issue, and I kind of agree with that too. But the Democrats continued to bombard the public. That drumbeat over and over again was able to re-energize enough voters to cast their ballots for pro-abortion Democrats. So that there will be a time of reflection. What went wrong? What could we have done differently? Not just in Michigan. I'm not talking about Prop 3, but in the nation. How we allowed the other side to control the narrative, and to make a lot of Republicans on defense over and over again. They felt like they were on defense when they didn't have to be. But it happened, and we just have to face that reality that in many states we are looked upon as the extremists, and we've got work to do to overcome that narrative. But the movement is not going to go away. It was a loss. As painful as it was, it will not deter us from continuing our fight to educate the public on the sanctity of human life, and that all lives have value, from the unborn from cradle to grave. All lives matter. So I'll end with that. But we did have some wins. I mean, it's not like the whole night was just one big devastating loss after another. No, we did have some wins. In Kentucky, there was a pro-life referendum that would have changed the state constitution. That would have said that states that the state does not recognize does not recognize a guaranteed right to abortion, and that there's no guarantee that state funding for abortions would be secured by the state constitution. Well, that pro-life amendment did fail, so that's not good news. But the good news is that Kentucky still has a strong pro-life law enacted since Dobbs. And that was not overturned, and that will not be overturned. That pro-life law remains on the books. So most abortions in the state of Kentucky will be banned. So that's good. On a national level, right now there are 49 Republicans and 48 Democrats, with 3 races still too close to call. One of them is currently led by a pro-life Republican. The other one is led by a pro-abortion Democrat. And the last one, the case in Georgia, will probably be decided by a runoff election in December, because neither candidate could get the required 50% majority to give them an outright victory. So if the Republicans have 49, so if this one that's still too close to call goes in the Republicans' favor, they have 50. So if the Democrat wins his, they have 49. So the runoff in Georgia will decide who controls the Senate. If Herschel Walker wins in the runoff, he will be the 51st Republican senator to give them the majority. If Raphael Warnock, who's the current senator in Georgia, if he wins, then they will get 50 senators. So 50-50, we're in the same boat we're in now, where Kamala Harris is the tiebreaker, and the Democrats would still control the House, or the Senate. But in the House, right now it's 205 to about 175. There's a lot of undecided seats right now, but most people think that the House will go Republican, not by a huge majority. A lot of people thought there was going to be a big red wave, and that did not happen. But I do expect by the end of the week, I hate to say that, but by the end of the week, I do think the Republicans will probably have between 220 and 225 seats. Not much of a majority, because you need 218 to be a majority. Not much, but at least the Republicans would control the House, and Nancy Pelosi would no longer be Speaker. So for some other big wins, in Ohio, pro-life Governor Mike DeWine easily defeated his pro-abortion challenger. Also in Ohio, J.D. Vance defeated a pro-abortion, formerly a pro-life lawmaker. Also in Ohio, the state Supreme Court, there were 3 open seats, and pro-lifers won all 3. So now they control their state Supreme Court 5-2. So pretty much guaranteed that any pro-life piece of legislation that might be challenged will be upheld by the state's highest court. And the biggest winner of the night, by far, was Ron DeSantis in Florida. Huge win. Back when he won the governor's race in 2018, he only won by about 1%. Well, last night he defeated his opponent by almost 20%. That was a huge landslide, and it really elevated DeSantis in that pantheon of potential presidential candidates. You know, if he's thinking that direction in 2 years or in 6 years, this win solidifies him as one of the top Republican contenders for the Republican nomination and for the presidency. And the other big winners were pro-life governors Greg Abbott of Texas and pro-life Brian Kemp, who retains his position as governor of Georgia. So all in all, many political observers did expect a big red wave. And I thought that was going to happen too. I mean, look at the economy, how bad things were. But voters put the economy on a shelf, at least some voters, and they voted on abortion. But the good news, Nancy Pelosi will not be Speaker. That will check Joe Biden's legislative agenda and perhaps force him to move more into the middle to get things accomplished. Abortion was not the sleeper issue we expected. The Dobbs decision did energize many women voters to set aside pocketbook issues to protect reproductive rights. That's the real tragedy, I think, of this election, is that so much money was raised by the pro-abortion forces and their PACs to overwhelm pro-life candidates with messaging that they could not overcome. It was just, there was so much money for abortion that we couldn't stop it. So we are not going away. Trust me, the pro-life movement is not going away. And in Michigan, we will fight on. With that, I'll let you go, and I will see you next time.